Your posts used to get shown primarily to your own network, whereas today they get shown to who LinkedIn thinks is going to be most interested in the topic of the post. If you've got the analytics yet, LinkedIn's just started rolling this out. You can now see for each of your posts what percentage of the people who've seen it are in your network and are outside your network.
My view on all of these things is get them to look at what you're actually doing first, and then if they want to discuss the opportunity further, then you have the call.
One thing I'd say is there's something called a LinkedIn lurker syndrome. Necessarily people won't like your posts. So we got a client from a post that they didn't like, but somebody who knew them recommended us into them, and I have actually a lunchtime meeting with them tomorrow.
If you do this consistently over the course of the next quarter, it's very likely you could add 400 or 500 CEOs, business decision makers, the kinds of people who would buy from you to your network. And in terms of doing that well, I mean, you've got searching effectively on LinkedIn to achieve that. Sales Navigator does help make that more scalable and more accurate. So I'm a big advocate for just the cheapest level of Sales Navigator. But then connection request wise, my advice in terms of connection requests would be to give the other person a reason that it would be interesting to be connected with you. Don't sell, and do ask a question to try and spark some conversation.
Tony, may I ask a question, please?
Please, go ahead.
So what's your suggestion if you are at your limit of connections? So your limit is 30,000, all right? I have 30,000. But, my connections that I've got, I've built up over, a good sort of 6-7 years. So they're all quite relevant to me. Well, you say that, try to send somebody a message and to get a reply, I'm afraid to say, is nearing impossible. But, if I pick up the phone to that same person and I've got their contact details in my phone, I guarantee they'll pick up the phone straight away. So my view on these things is, yes, there's a load of people on LinkedIn, all right? But I'm afraid to say I don't actually think many people sort of use it effectively, because there's so many people on there that I want to send a message to and sort of just pick up and arrange a call or whatever it may be, but no one gets back to you.
We'll come back to that, Andre, because I would expect you in the first quarter of doing this to get 25 to 60 first meetings, if you're going after meetings with your ideal clients, or to get a similar number of people coming along to a workshop you're hosting or a business breakfast you're running, something like that. In terms of 30,000 connections, I'm in exactly the same situation. Hit that number probably 6 years ago. There's 2 points there. If you have genuinely got 30,000 people who are, the majority of them good prospects for your business,
I do delete a few, when I want to add more, but
you don't need to grow your audience anymore if you genuinely have that many good prospects in there. Having said that, think how many people out of 30,000 retire or die each year.
Good point.
I have been, cleaning up my network, just looking for people who've retired and died. And
so how do you know if they've retired or died?
I'm sorry?
How do you know if they've retired or died?
Just search for profile for the word retired, dead, literally died. Because lots of people, when husband or wife dies, they will not delete the profile, but they will put deceased on. So that alone will usually help you free up hundreds of connection spaces. And then I've also got a lot more specific about who we sell to. So over the years, I did have a lot of connections outside of the UK, US, and Canada, which is where we now focus. And so I've increasingly removed people from countries that we just don't do business with. So that's that one. But
sorry, my question is, those 30,000 connections that I've got, how do I utilize them rather than getting new connections? Because I don't need any more new connections. I just want to utilize the ones that I've got effectively.
Yes. And that's what I'm going to come on to shortly.
Perfect.
So 3 steps. The first one would be growing your network with the right kinds of people. If you've got a load of them already, fabulous. If we start work with someone who comes on board and they've got 10,000 connections and we see loads of them are their ideal clients, we don't need to spend 3 months growing their network. We just start getting them meetings straight away. The second thing to focus on doing, and this is true whether you've got an existing network like that or you're growing a new one, is to post in ways that build your professional credibility with them. So if you've got a new connection that doesn't know, the faintest thing about you, other than just having looked at your profile to accept the connection request, if they get a message from you requesting a meeting, within the next days after connecting, we've all been on the receiving end of that. No one likes that. It's extremely ineffective. But if they see, over the next couple of months, lots of insights from you that, really highlight your expertise at whatever it is you do, then you take people from not knowing who you are to a couple of months later, oh yeah, I've seen loads of good insights from Bill on, sales effectiveness. Then when Bill invites me to, a free workshop on improving your sales, I'm much more likely to say yes to that because I've seen a whole load of stuff from Bill in the intervening weeks. A couple of things I would highlight in terms of getting this right. The first thing is LinkedIn really changed over the last few months. Your posts used to get shown primarily to your own network, whereas today they get shown to who LinkedIn thinks is going to be most interested in the topic of the post. And if you've got the analytics yet, LinkedIn's just started rolling this out. You can now see for each of your posts what percentage of the people who've seen it are in your network and are outside your network. And mine, for example, is even though I've got 30,000 connections, over 65% of my posts get seen by people outside my network. So that's really important to factor in. And the 2 things that help you get seen by the right people are to either write on a very specific topic or to address your post to a specific job title. So if you make your post very clearly about how AI can be used to improve data analytics, then LinkedIn knows, okay, this post is about AI and data analytics, and it will show it to people who've shown an interest in AI and data analytics before. If your post is written to recruitment agency founders, here's something I've been hearing from loads of recruitment agency founders in the last weeks, ... then LinkedIn knows that it's intended for recruitment agency founders. And so that's who they will then show the post to. So those are ways I would adapt to how the algorithm is working now. And then my single biggest tip would be to use storytelling and anecdotes. So if you write posts about what your company does, what you're best at in the market, or if you share a case study, quite often that's a bit of a yawn fest, that doesn't generate a lot of visibility for your expertise. Whereas if you share an anecdote of something that's happened in the last days, that kind of story generates a lot more interest. You get a lot more engagement and therefore a lot more visibility with the right kinds of people. So as I came onto the call, someone was a recruitment agency owner, I think. So for example, if you share a post that is, I spoke to a candidate in the last days and they walked away from a job opportunity because the potential employer had messed up ABC during the interview process. here's how I would have recommended to a client they should have done things differently, that positions you as an expert recruiting in that market. But it isn't you just putting out a promotional post saying we're the best recruiters in the construction industry, or whatever it might be. So focus on storytelling and anecdotes, and adapt to the fact that LinkedIn is now showing your posts to a lot more people outside your network. So the first pillar, if you don't have it already, grow your audience consistently with your ideal client type. If you add, let's keep the number simple. If you add 500 new ideal clients every quarter, and 5 to 12% of them convert into saying yes to having a meeting, coming to a business breakfast, joining a webinar, and Andre, that's our benchmark, by the way, for sending messages. Then you're looking at 25 to 60 first meetings each quarter. And if you did that last quarter and it resulted in that many meetings, guess what? If you do the same kind of activities next quarter, it's going to result in the same kind of meeting output. So it becomes something that becomes very predictable and consistent, that you can plug into your business plans. If you've got this many meetings and that's turned into this much business for you in the last period, no reason it wouldn't do the same next period. And if you can get some of your team on board to start replicating what you've been doing that's working, then obviously you could scale this up in the organization as well. But that brings me on to the third point, which is converting. Now, for this one, I'm just referring to a slide. I'm gonna put up a slide for this one thing, if that's okay, given that it's a concern for everyone.
Can I just ask a really quick question? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Tony. So what happens if you don't want all of these meetings, if you don't want 60 meetings? So our platform, we've got a platform. We just want people to look at our platform, look at the website, see whether it's right for them, download our platform. And if they then want to discuss the platform further, then there is an opportunity for us to have that conversation. So, 60 meetings takes a lot of time out of people's day and week, which, could result into nothing. So my view on all of these things is get them to look at what you're actually doing first. And then if they want to, discuss the opportunity further, then yeah, I agree. Then you have the call. But then when you've got that meeting, it's more meaningful rather than, just a sort of, a call or a meeting for the sake of it.
I think that's true for you, and I think it's completely false for others on the call. It really depends on.
Agreed.
It depends on your business. So if, for example, we were working with a recruitment business or a management consultancy, and we said to the management consultancy partners, we can get you in a room with 50 of your ideal clients over the next quarter, they would absolutely bite our hand off. Recruitment agency founders, if you can get them in a room with someone who needs to hire, bite your hand off. If you're selling, a £10 a month subscription to a bit of business software, then of course you don't want to have a meeting for every £10 a month subscription you sell. So you always have to start with what is, and this is what I'd said in this slide, start with the end in mind and then work backwards. What makes sense for your business, and then have your LinkedIn orient towards that. Now, for example, you can set up a webinar that runs on repeat. So you record it once, you show people what your software does, whatever makes sense in that webinar, and you can then market that on LinkedIn, to run once every 2 weeks for the next year. And you can market that to your 30,000 followers, connections, and you might get 30, 40 people sign up to that every fortnight, and you don't even have to be on that webinar. It runs on autopilot, and people at the end of the webinar sign up for a next step if they're interested. That, if you are selling something lower value, where you don't want to have a meeting every single time someone's interested, that's the kind of, approach you might follow to make that work. But for the benefit of everyone on the call, I mean, these are all things that we have seen work really well. So if there's one of these that fits, with what your business does, then I would recommend giving it a shot. Meetings in person. So if you're traveling somewhere for business and you're going to have free time while you're in that place, contacting other ideal clients who are connections, who are in that location, and saying you're going to be there a week on Wednesday, you've got a couple of slots free for coffee, wondered if it might be an opportunity to meet up. People say yes to that very readily. If you approach them to have a sales meeting, people are reluctant to say yes to that unless they have a real need. But there's something about you're just there, and there's just a window of opportunity to meet up. Something psychologically about that, people will say yes to much more readily. We have clients who know they are traveling to 2 or 3 places over the course of the year, and we build them networks in those locations so that every time they are traveling to Dallas or to Vancouver, we can use this exact approach and line up a whole load of meetings for them while they're there. So that's one approach that works really well. A second approach that works really well is messaging people to see who else might be going to an industry event. And by the way, these are all great conversation starters. So the outcome from this might be that they say yes to meeting you while you're in Vancouver, or they say, yes, I am going to that industry event, let's meet up. But you should get at least as many business opportunities coming out of just the fact that you've approached someone in a conversational fashion. So seeing who else might be attending an industry event, wondered if you might be going to this. If it's a free industry event, even better, because then you've done them a favor, a courtesy by even bringing it to their attention. But you'll get a whole load of people who say, oh yeah, that does look interesting, and let's meet up while we're there. You'll get a whole load of other people say, I'm not going to that, I'm on holiday that week, but actually we have got an issue right now. It'd be useful if we could have a chat some other time. So that works really well. Then your own business, organizing an event. So organizing a business breakfast, drinks reception, launch event, Christmas party, free workshop, anything that would make sense to get your ideal clients in a room with you. This works incredibly well. We've just run an event in London for one of our clients who's flown in from North America and got 95 business owners signed up for that event purely through messaging connections on LinkedIn who are the ideal clients and getting them along to that event. So that works really well. And then in terms of virtual meetings, so getting Zoom calls or phone calls, doing research for a sector specific or a functional specific report is really great. In consulting, you have thought leadership, where consultancies like to write papers that show they are the expert in XYZ topic. They write that paper and then they go out and try and market that and hope that they get it in front of enough of their ideal clients that it turns into some business. Our approach with that is to turn it on its head and say, well, why don't you use the fact that you are going to produce this report as a reason to contact all the ideal clients you want to have a first meeting with and look to get their input on the topic of that report. And that gets you loads of first meetings with people where they are opening up to you about the challenges they're facing in their business, the opportunities that there are that they're trying to exploit. Obviously, whatever the topic of the report is, impacts what it is that you end up talking about. So that works really well. Getting guests for a podcast or a video interview series. You see loads of niche firms setting up podcasts. And, for some people, it's a head scratcher. Why are they doing that? Surely not enough people are going to listen to this podcast that it's going to ever bring them, loads of business. That may well be true. But if that gives them the opportunity to have a first meeting with loads of their ideal clients, to potentially interview them on the podcast, it's a great door opener to get that first warm meeting. And that's, in a lot of businesses, what we all want is a first warm opportunity to have a conversation with someone. Organising a panel discussion webinar works very well. So bring together, 4 or 5 experts from your industry to talk about a topic, but you contacting people in your LinkedIn network for them to potentially be one of your panel experts, again, is a great way of getting on first calls with people. And I would have said it at the outset with my opening slide, but a business win on LinkedIn is not necessarily going to be someone actually signing terms of business with you. A management consulting partner is not going to have someone message them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I've seen your stuff over the last 6 months. We're ready to do a £1 million strategy project. Can you send me your terms of business? That's just never going to happen. So a business win on LinkedIn is whatever the step is that leads to the ultimate sale that currently you can't get enough of. Currently, you're not getting enough demo requests, or you're not getting enough first meetings, or you're not getting enough of the right people coming to your business breakfast. That's where you plug LinkedIn and possibly other social media to make a big difference. Sorry, I'm not on much of a Zoom yet. There we go. And the last one, hosting a roundtable discussion. This is brilliant. We've got a client who has done a couple of these over the last 6 months, and they're a consulting firm. They've got booked up now for the next 6 months. So basically the rest of this year is taken care of just from messaging people to see if they'd like to join roundtable discussions that they're running. The roundtable discussions themselves, so yeah, that would be someone joining a Zoom call like this to talk about a topic, or going to an in-person event for the same kind of outcome. But they got so much business just from contacting people and that shaking the tree and producing interest in having meetings. The roundtable discussions themselves were really successful. They got 25 of their ideal clients onto each of those, so those were great conversations, loads of people for them to follow up with and have subsequent meetings with and win over. But just approaching them about these things in a way that is conversational and non-salesy, that's what really flushes out all of the opportunities. So I'm very conscious of time. I don't know how strict a timescale we're on here, but
tell you what, Tony, I'm really enjoying this and it's very useful. Carry on for now, but I was going to ask if we can come back, if you can arrange to come back and do a part 2 to this, because this is extremely relevant. It comes up a lot in our surgery sessions.
Okay. So a couple of pointers I would give in terms of actually making that conversion happen. 5 to 12% is our benchmark. So when we've built an audience for a client and then we're sending a messaging campaign or event invites to get people to do something, we expect 5 to 12% of people to say yes at that point. And if we're not within that range, then we go back and rework the campaign because something's not right. So one of you mentioned earlier that you message people but you just don't get a reply. It may well be that just the copy there isn't right of the messaging, or that it's perhaps too salesy. Obviously, don't know the context of what's been sent. 2 things that I would say in terms of messaging. Firstly, the less you try to sell, the more you'll end up selling. So if you look at all those examples that I just shared, none of them are actually contacting people and saying, hey, I run a social media agency. Why don't we find a time for us to have a look at what you're currently doing and see how it could be improved? If I messaged a load of people with that, then I would be lucky to get even, an occasional meeting out of that. Whereas if I send people a message that's inviting them to join an event where we're going to be helping business owners with that kind of challenge, then firstly, I'll get a load of people say yes and want to come to the event. And secondly, it will spark a load of conversations, but a promotional message wouldn't spark those conversations. So if you're overly promotional in what you send to people, then you either get, yes, they're interested, or you get ignored. It's very rare that it starts a conversation. you're either going to get interested or ignored, or people saying, you know, please remove me, unsubscribe. So that's the first thing. The more you try to sell, the less you'll end up selling. The second thing is be conversational. So your messages should write like you've quickly typed something, you know, whilst in a taxi or on the way to a train station, and it's conversational, not that it's been written by the PR department or is, you know, like a landing page on a website. Let me just give you a simple example there. Companies trying to get people along to a free event. You'll all have received invites to these, I'm sure, and you can probably all think of receiving ones that are 2 pages long. So you get the message, you know, we're organising this free event. It's about this topic. These are the agenda points. These are the types of people that are going to be attending. This is what you'll miss out on if you don't join us. There's only 20 spaces left, so hurry in, you know, sign up if this sounds of interest. Completely promotional. And gets only a modest uptake. Whereas if you drop people a quick, you know, 3-line message that says, you know, I'm organising an event about XYZ on such and such a date, wondered about getting you along if that sounds of interest, and then leave that there, that will start loads of conversations. Lots of people say, oh, you know, I can't make that date, but actually it'd be useful for us to catch up at some point. Or, oh, that sounds really interesting, Tony. Yeah, can you send me some more details? And then you send them the full event details and the link to where they can sign up and whatever. So in terms of contacting your connections and actually making something happen, that's what I would really focus on. Having something to go to them with, like what I just put on the slides, that is valuable for them, that doesn't just feel like a, you know, an out-and-out sales pitch. And just not being too promotional and being conversational. If you do that, and let's put aside anyone with 30,000 connections, but if you haven't got that many connections at the moment of your ideal clients, if you get 500 new connections over the next quarter and you send that kind of messaging and you get 25 to 60 of your ideal clients having a first meeting with you, for a lot of people on the call, that would probably transform your business development pipeline for the year. If you could repeat that every quarter and know that you're going to get that many new meetings coming out of it, then that's really transformational. If you're in this lucky situation that you've already got a whole load of the right people in your network, well, provided you've been doing some posting and these people have seen you, they know who you are, you could switch to that messaging and getting, you know, results from your existing network pretty much straight away. So we have had clients join us where we've discovered that's the case once we've had a look at their network, you know, and we've been able to switch on messaging and get them meetings within a week or 10 days of starting. So, yeah. I hope that's helpful. I'm just looking at my slides to see if there was anything else I was hoping to cover.
I had a quick question. I've just popped in.
Please.
So we've just taken on a client in Jordan, and they are selling into life sciences space. They're coming into Europe and US. And the argument here is I said only LinkedIn because it's B2B, right? Everything else is sort of like B2C. But the ticket price is not cheap. It's about 30 grand for even getting a pilot. Do you believe that this sort of 500 contacts a month in that sort of scenario works?
So, I mean, management consultancies sell projects that are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds. So yes, it absolutely works. What it does, though, is plugs into your existing sales process.
Right.
So if currently you sell something and it's got a 12-month sales cycle, and there's not a lot you can do to speed that up, and you've tried loads of different things, but ultimately it always takes that long. There's nothing about LinkedIn that is suddenly going to deliver, you know, ready to buy clients.
It's top of the funnel activity.
Yeah.
Will boost. Yeah.
Exactly. It can help in that scenario because if you've got the first meeting through a LinkedIn connection, and then that person is repeatedly seeing you on LinkedIn, sharing good advice and prompts to do something, over the next 12 months, then you end up being on their radar more than if you'd got the meeting through, I don't know, meeting them at a conference and then following up with them thereafter. So it might help with the sales cycle a little bit in that respect, but fundamentally LinkedIn plugs into what you already do, rather than being able to achieve something totally different. But
yeah,
to your point,
I'm all over LinkedIn. So I've been on the platform 16 years. It's the #1 lead generator sales piece for us. So that's why this was really useful. Thank you.
Good. And I would, Gaurav, agree with your point about focusing on LinkedIn. It's much better to be really strong on one or two social platforms than to try and be everywhere. And the problem with other platforms is you just don't have the same visibility about who you're ultimately talking to. On LinkedIn, I can be very specific about the size of business, the sector, what target companies they are. Whereas if on Twitter X, someone's profile is Bobby, the Liverpool fan, and their bio says they work in life sciences, I have no idea if that is a good.
If you're a Liverpool fan, I'm just going to block you, just so you're aware.
Thanks, Gaurav. Tony, that's been really, really useful. Fantastic. I want you to come back. I've just sent you an email, so if you can have a look at that for me. Any questions for Tony whilst he's with us this morning? Dan, have you got anything? You're a LinkedIn aficionado.
Yeah. Just kind of one point really then is that I find it very, very frustrating. I probably get about 40, 50 messages a week from people selling me crap, basically. It's so annoying. You get accepted and it's like, yeah, SEO stuff, lead generators is the biggest one. And it's absolutely infuriating. My inbox just gets filled up by then. And some people just don't get the hint. I've had one woman, she's messaged me 7 times saying, hey, I'm just wondering if you're still interested. It's like, I'm not interested at all. Get the hint. If I was interested, I would have replied. The fact that I've ignored 7 of your messages is very, very annoying. But the problem that I have now is that real messages from people that I actually want to speak to, such as startup stand-up members or clients, just get so lost in there. Is there any? I wanted to change my profile photo to say, like on letterboxes, you put a little note saying no junk mail, please. I wanted to do something like that. Is there a way of actually blocking people from this? Because it is infuriating. So kind of, I want to receive messages, but when it's intentional, like when it's used. I had somebody trying to sell me wholesale baked beans the other day. So why do I want that?
Yeah, so in the message pane, when you get a message, if you click on the 3 dots, you've got the option of blocking that person. So I would just do that, and over the next weeks, that will tidy up what you're seeing in your inbox. It obviously pays to be selective about who you accept connection requests from. So if you're looking at connection requests and someone is in SEO or they are in lead generation or whatever, there's a fairly decent chance that they're going to pitch you, once you've connected. So make those connections with your eyes open. Or, if you are going down the route of proactively growing your network, I hardly accept any incoming connection requests because I've hit 30,000. And so I have to remove people to be able to even accept someone.
Yeah.
But I have a standard message that I send back to people who have asked to connect with me, that flushes out if there is a genuine business interest in them talking to me. And I send that to everyone and I win business off that. So there are some people who approach me, this guy is a pay-per-click ad agency owner, but actually was connecting with me because he was interested in doing business with us. So when you're on the page where you receive connection requests, if you click on manage all rather than just doing it on the default page, it takes you to a page where you can then reply to each person that sent you a connection request without actually accepting the connection.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because like I said, I have been blocking people, but they just keeps coming. That's the thing. I wanted to kind of stop it before it gets to that point. So
Yes. Yeah. But sending everyone a reply who sent you a connection request, if you've got one saved that, is sort of a catch-all, works for everyone, it only takes a couple of minutes each week, but it stops you what you'll find is there'll be a load of people you message who just don't bother replying, and you're like, okay, well, I can tell you were just going to spam me anyway, or you've automated everything or whatever. But you'll get a few useful responses back that start a conversation, and you'll get some responses back that indicate, oh, actually, so there is a good reason for us to connect. And you just end up being a lot more selective.
Because that's the thing, I'm trying to grow my network. I think I've got about 4,000 at the moment, but I'm actively trying to grow my network. So it's kind of 6 of one and half dozen the other. The more you grow your network, the more spam you get. But then, yeah. But yeah, no, it's really helpful. Appreciate that.
Pleasure. Well, thank you everyone for your questions and your interest today. And yeah, look forward to seeing you on the next call whenever we end up organising that.
I think we've got another question, final question.
Sorry, please,
yeah. I think one thing I'd say is there's something called a LinkedIn lurker syndrome. And Tony, I think you know this. Necessarily, people won't like your posts. Okay, so we got a client from a post that they didn't like, but somebody who knew them recommended us into them. And I have actually a lunchtime meeting with them tomorrow. So it just goes to show when you're putting stuff out there, it may not be immediate. We got GSK Saudi Arabia actually review 6 months of our posts before they picked up the phone. So please do the consistency. I think, Tony, if you disagree, please say it. And Dan, you don't need loads and loads of connections. Some of the most successful people haven't got a picture profile and got less than 500. It's what you do with them. Yeah. So
two things quality rather than quantity then.
Yeah. 2 things I'd add to that. First, almost every client I've ever won has not ever commented or liked my posts. The more senior you go, the less likely people are to be posting themselves or commenting or liking. So we see this, when we've got clients going after the C-suite in big pharma companies, big travel operators, whatever, they're very unlikely to get comments and likes back from those people. But if you go into the analytics for your posts, you can see, top companies, industries that have been looking at your posts. So you can get a flavor, even though you're not getting loads of likes from your ideal clients. If you're seeing the right level of seniority and the right kinds of people are seeing your post, then actually that's a good indicator that you are reaching the right people.
If anyone wants an introduction to Tony, please contact me by email or drop me a WhatsApp. That's been fabulous this morning, Tony. Big thanks. You're going to get a lot of love and big ups and whatever else on LinkedIn the next few days from our community. So please respond to that. And I'll drop you. Actually, I think you've got the link to book the next call. Can we do a part 2, please, Tony? Because this has been very useful this morning. I know people like Andre have got thousands of questions around this on this subject. Yeah. So
okay. Well, maybe we make that next one a Q&A, and I'll just answer whatever questions everyone has.
I think that could be a really good thing.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Tremendous. Right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks very much, Tony. We should grab a call. We should grab a call as well, if that's all right.
It was lovely to meet you all.
Bye-bye. Very happy to do that. Just drop me a message.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.